Ariel.
Hello. Good morning.
Good morning. This is the week of the Confidential Computing Summit. I do not know what it's going to do to attendance. On one hand, there are more people on the West Coast. On the other hand, it's 6 a.m. So
Yeah.
we'll see. But
Yeah, a number of people from Google there are there, as you would expect. I mean,
yeah,
I'm not, but certainly other people are.
yeah, I kind of decided to sit this one out. I don't know if it was a good decision or not. I guess time will tell.
Hey guys, good morning.
Yes, hi. Please add yourselves to the meeting minutes. We're going to start in just a minute. So I have a couple of pull requests, small ones, that I want to get in, and then we'll walk through the informational draft text. I think what we're going to do today is identify all the main issues that need to be resolved before the informational draft can be submitted. We're going to put these in to GitHub as issues, and then so that at least we have a complete view of what remains. And then in the time remaining, we're going to see if any of these issues can be resolved in real time, and then perhaps maybe assign owners. So again, time is going to be running very short. This is a short week in the US because of the Juneteenth, which was on Thursday, which means nobody's working Friday. At least that's how I see it. And then next week is full work week, and after that we have 4th of July and then the deadline. So so we were pretty much up to the end of this process, and then I'm kind of looking forward to it. I like what we've done, but we're not solving technical issues. So that's really what this working group is all about. We need to switch to that mode pretty quickly. All right. So again, with whoever is online, we're going to do that. So I opened a couple of pull requests. I'm going to start sharing my screen. So Hank merged or completed pull request 14. I merged it this morning.
I did. I think
No,
I
you
think
didn't. I merged.
you
But
merged. Okay, I
you
see.
did it. So thank you so much. So we're reviewing this pull request right now. This is the couple I just made this morning. So again, what we're doing is we're going to go section by section, and if you have no comments, we'll just move on and then we'll merge. So here, the document doesn't illustrate a gap analysis. I think it kind of sounds wrong, but it does contain a gap analysis. So again, let me know if there are any comments on this. The second one is just a small wording change. I just want to cut out extra words if I can. And the last one is, this is not a list of requirements. This is a list of gaps or shortcomings. So that's why I'm basically changing this. We need to understand these shortcomings are related. And finally, small tweak here. We're saying definition of the portion of the software. And then I'm saying there are portions of the deployed software because, again, it could span CPUs or trust execution environments. And because it's portions, then this is plural. Finally, this I don't want to say surrounding system, where everywhere else we talk about confidential computing, we talk about hosting environment. So that's it. If you have any comments, now is a good time. Otherwise, you know, we should merge this pull request.
Up my side so that I can see the same thing. Sorry.
All right, then there's another pull request. There was, so although we listed provenance in the gap analysis, there was not a mention of why. And again, remember what we said. So Whimsy deals with the usage of the credential. It doesn't deal that much with issuance of the credential. So the impact, so the thrust, the focus of the informational draft is on use of credential by Whimsy. So provenance, what I say here is, again, this, I added that to the gaps. So we already say that we don't trust this hosting environment, and token binding is not sufficient unless the secrets are also protected. And here I'm adding this word here, which is a lack of verifiable workload composition accessible through credential provenance. And then the explanation: when the relying party receives a credential or when an auditor examines a log of decisions by a relying party, it is unable to perform additional checks on the security properties of the workload or the process involved in creating it beyond the claims communicated inside the credential. I welcome criticisms on this, but this is the other part of the gap analysis that I feel that needs to be listed from the usage of the credential perspective.
I have one comment on this line 124.
Mhm.
Auditor examines a log of decision, or is it a log on which it bases its decision? What is log of decisions? It's not clear. Maybe we need
So
to.
normally on the relying party, if you might want to basically say, I granted access to X because of Y. Right? That's your audit log. You're saying not only that Bob got in, but Bob got in because Bob is, in this role, or Bob is a member of this group, or, Bob has that clearance level. Right? So that gets put in a log. But
So is it policies, right? Or maybe.
well,
Is
it's a log of decisions. Right? It's like it may reference other things, but you don't simply say Bob got access. You say Bob got access because the extra part that's missing that is important to certain, like certainly for high risk transactions or high volume transactions, is it would say we would like to be able to say, well, the auditor needs to be able to say, well, how come Bob is cleared for level 3? And the credential doesn't say, so you have to do God knows what. And in this case, we may want to say, for transactions over $10 million, the connecting workload must additionally have certain, properties, like, be malware free, whatever. And this is where the provenance might become interesting.
So log of decisions made by a relying party or applied by a relying party?
Well, the decision to grant access is made by a relying party. It's a decision by a relying party to grant access. So how would you reward it? Right, let me ask you that.
No, I was just trying to understand the kind of full context behind your terminology before I can make a suggestion. Okay.
Mhm.
So log of decisions is the kind of okay, is the conclusions basically, or maybe the chain of conditions which led it to that making that
Correct.
decision.
Yeah, you may want to, like, sometimes you want to examine sort of the deeper structure of what's going on and why.
Oh, okay.
Any other comments?
As you were talking, I wondered if this is not going a bit outside of our requirements envelope. I mean, I do get, and I agree in spirit, in the sense of it, but the way it's worded is crossing into now we're auditing the relying parties. This far, everything we've been doing was merely providing a service or a, a testable, lineage-based or verifiable building blocks for the relying party to do its thing. But the way I understood our requirement on architecture was mostly, we don't care about what the relying party does with the information. We are just doing the best we can to give them the toolbox and all the building blocks which are traceable on their own. So in that sense, of course,
that falls precisely into that. That's part of the relying party's toolbox, is to be able to trace the lineage of the workload.
Yeah, and I think this is only, that's why I said I agree in spirit. What I'm harping on really is, maybe we should say we give them explicitly, a provenance enriched credential so that they can use it. Like, to be very explicit that, our, kind of requirements end with us providing the provenance enriched credentials and the identity with a strong binding to a provenance, but we don't mandate how the relying party operate. It's entirely out of scope for that, for our architecture. We just say, well, we give everything for you so that it's possible for you to be audited in the rear.
So, and I'm a little confused because I think this does exactly what you say. It specifies, here's a mechanism you can do, you follow. We're not telling you how to do it. We're just telling you now you can. In fact, so this is kind of weird in that because you have GTI and because you have the, the serial number on your certificate, if it's X509, you already kind of have this capability. So I listed as a gap, although there isn't really a gap. But lack of verifiable workload composition is a gap. That's a gap. And because we're now making provenance a first-class citizen, that gap now can be closed. So that's now in your toolbox.
I agree with that. I mean, the only nit, and I have to say it's a nit, is I would think of rewarding that in such a way so that we don't mention the relying party in the sentence at all. I mean, it's creating an impression for me that, we are trying to overstep our boundaries into saying what the relying party shall or shall not be doing with what we are providing to them. I think we have this line in the sand where we say, well, your relying party are the consumer, you know what's best. We are just giving you in our best ability, the best security artifacts we can think of in the usage scenarios we thought of.
The relying
But
party
that said,
cannot.
Yeah.
Okay, how about this? We'll move past this. You feel free, separately in sort of out of band, go propose a change, and we can review it. But so we can move on to other things. If this is really a nit, then let's not spend too much time on it as a group.
Yeah,
but feel free to provide a change. So okay, so with that. Where did I go back to my pull request? I will merge this one. So the next thing, hold on, there's been another pull request that appeared.
Yeah, I sneaked that one in. That's a big surprise, very big surprise.
Okay, what did you do this time?
That's
He added himself.
Yeah, I'm asking.
Okay.
This is a transparent ask, not a hidden backroom, whatever.
Right.
Backdoor.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Is it in the conversation? All right, you're in.
Thanks.
All right. So the next thing I want to do today, because we are running now close to deadline, is let's take a look again at this document. This is not a reference architecture. We should probably rename this.
Yeah, at the moment it feels like a requirements document on the context.
Yeah. So this is what I wanted to do. I don't know what the best way to do that is. I
Maybe
want to
Hank can help me.
I want to look through this. In fact, because we've been always looking from the beginning, like when I practice piano, sometimes you practice the beginning all the time, and the end you never touch. Let's go back, backwards, forwards. And I would like to lodge issues, basic log issues for everything that needs to be done before this can be submitted. And then we can assign ownership to these issues and resolve them in parallel, just so that we have it all buttoned down. So what I would like to do now is go and what is the best mechanism to do that? To basically say, all right, I want issue based on things.
You can basically raise issues on individual sections.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
how do I do this from here, from this UI? There's Copilot, there is
okay.
download.
Maybe
There is no like issue. Okay, maybe if I can
You
open
can
it
create
in
a pull request. In the pull request diff, you can insert reference issue and then.
exactly. I think from the raw, it's from a direct view, it's not so easy. I've never done it. You can create a branch from a raw, which is interesting.
Yeah.
I've never seen that before. Okay. I'm looking at places I've never looked before.
This
But
this
this
issue is closed. We already did
Yeah.
that. Let's just clean this up while I can.
Okay.
What issues do we have actually?
So I know of an item that has been assigned, and we haven't done a lot yet because our sync cycles were off. Matthias and I wanted to, and we have text, but it's more or less itemized text at the moment. Wanted to go into binding to platform. So we, I think, also it was a big help of Matthias. We identified 3 or 4 dimensions to the binding using, I want to say, colloquial terms like stickiness of the workload to the platform, which is super intuitive and everybody gets it, but it might not be the right word. But maybe it's a placeholder word we can live with for now and such. So that's where we are. And we really have to sync this week. Unfortunately, I went out of his time zone into your time zone, Mark, which is not making it more easy, but I think we could do it in a week.
Okay. So put a pin in that for just a second because I want to do the low-hanging fruit here.
Sure.
So we are missing acknowledgement and security considerations. So that's what I'm just going to do. I'm going to file an issue.
By the way, you can file issues from that view if you switch to code view. If you view it in Markdown, unfortunately, it's bad. But in this left-hand side, you have preview code and blame. Go left in this.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So here, if you scroll down to the individual section and then next to a line number, there should be something that appears like a.
There's a Copilot item.
Yeah, for me, what happens? Oh, yeah, this one, and then you have a reference
in
in new
issues.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yep.
Sounds good. That makes
wow.
That makes it
left
easy.
to it. Learned
Okay.
another thing.
Fill out acknowledgements. So I'm just gonna go quickly so we know we got.
We should add the list here, and then I'm happy to work on this.
Yeah. Okay. So back to code. Just this way.
Maybe we should have contributors as well. I don't know. Contributors or acknowledgement is almost the same thing.
That's perfect. I just want to make sure the tasks are listed, so we have issues for all the things.
But a question there: do we need to close those issues by Madrid? I mean, some of them I would assume it's not like we are, boasting is going to be a perfectly fine 1.0 document. So are those sections mandatory for us to go to IETF? And if so, which ones are of the utmost importance? Because, for example, security considerations, I would assume Of course, we have much of them, but do we care about them enough so that the intro conversation at Madrid is gated by it? I would say not so much. Maybe this is a dissenting opinion, but I'm thinking for intro conversations, we only want to have the skeleton of it and the main theme prevailing.
Yeah, I do not know if it's a blocker. Maybe Hank knows. My instinct is to get as much done as we can, but perhaps have a priority order.
Yeah, that's what I was after, like ranking those issues. Maybe let's first create the bin list and then try to rank them.
Yeah. So let's take a look. Again, going from the back. So IANA, I don't
We
even
don't
know
have
if
any.
this.
We don't need an INR right now here because we are not registering any tax. So
Okay, so
not
should we
applicable.
just go and edit
It's
the
not
file
applicable.
and remove it?
It's probably we can say INR consideration not applicable for this draft, or yeah, because the standard template says INR
Do we say
consideration.
not applicable, or do we just delete it?
I would keep it because it's a standard template we are
Just say not
following.
applicable for this draft?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's go up here. Workload to platform binding.
That's Hank.
So there is this
planning
whole
to-
section here that looks very sparse.
Yeah, I think Hank was working on it, right? He said he's.
Yes,
Yes,
that's
Okay.
what me and Hank are
yes,
working on.
yeah.
Cool.
Just
So
so
make
you know, Hank,
maybe put an
I'm
issue in
out till
place.
Sunday, but Monday-ish I would be able to start committing back. Yes, we could definitely add an issue to this track that we are owning that particular section. So
Okay,
to
so
platform binding.
I trust you to go and file an issue, so I don't have to do it here. So this would be an issue, right? Or do you want me to file it right now while I'm at it?
I mean, workload to platform, never mind. I mean, we're on it anyway. We can file it. But the others, I think they would benefit from having an issue.
Yeah, so the workload to platform binding is the only item that we were talking about. It seems related, of course, to everything else, but this is the one issue. I can create one for
Yeah.
workload to platform binding. Yeah.
Should
I
we
will do it
kill
right now.
remote attestation of composite workloads for now?
Yeah.
I would
It's
say
in the
no.
definition.
Even if you say to be defined as a just a as a placeholder, it's still bringing value so that somebody knows we are after it.
Or maybe we can just put some justification on this. Confidential computing workloads, confidential workloads may span trusted execution environments, yet share a workload credential. The details are to be defined at a later time. Okay, so that should be sufficient, right?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
at least it's pointing the reader that we are considered that in
Yeah.
scope. I think that's valuable.
May be composite, i.e. Okay. Integrating workload attestation with credential issuance. A credential issue will process the attestation results from the verifier and apply its own appraisal policy for attestation results prior to issuing credentials. I think that's perfectly fine to stay. Remote attestation, that's the section, remote attestation. And remote attestation falls under what top level? Extensions to Whimsy architecture. So that would be an extension to Whimsy architecture, okay? Remote attestation is an extension to Whimsy architecture, fair enough. And attesting the workload and ensuring the workload is running on the platform that provides required trustworthiness guarantees. Instead of saying attesting the workload, because like attestation is attesting, yay. How about we can say the role it's actually playing is in assessing the
Proving.
trustworthiness of the workload.
Yes, that sounds way better.
Is assessing, not assuring. Right? Fair enough.
Yes.
Workload to platform binding, that's what you're working on. So I'm going to put a to do.
Yeah, the
And
issue is out. It's in the tracker
to
now.
do issue. Well, do you know which issue number it is?
Yes, 27.
Right. Credential provenance. Let's just go through this. Credential provenance is the metadata pertaining to the credential issuance itself, binding the workload. Verifier. Credential issuer. Is that like, do we believe this statement?
Muted. Sorry, I'm muting all the time. Highlight, please.
This.
Yeah, so the all parties of the credential creation process are involved here. The requester, the issuer, and then again a verifier in the middle. So I guess I'm not entirely sure if I would read this without context. Why is the verifier?
I have
Probably
a
because,
quick
sorry?
question to
Yeah.
sorry, quick question/clarification here. Including the criteria it applied to assess the attestation evidence, or because otherwise it's a bit open to interpretation.
Or
Yeah.
the verifier, yeah, the verifier
Yeah, for the
praises evidence. Yeah. Typically, if you say
Exactly,
praise,
so-
that's yeah.
Yeah, so I suggest like making it explicit, including the criteria it applied to assess or appraise the attestation.
Can we just zoom out for a second? So we're looking at this section right now. Okay, so we'll come back to it in just a moment, but let me scroll a few lines up. Here we have provenance. And we talk about obtaining workload provenance, integrating workload with credential issuance. Do we still need to go back? Right? Because the thing is, I don't want to, like in Russian, we have an expression, buttery butter, like hat on a
But these are
hat in
two
Hollywood
different
speak.
provenances, Mark. I mean,
No.
I'm guilty of defining it this way, but I claim they are. There is credential provenance, which has everything to do with the very moment where you issue the credential, which tracks the birth of credential itself. And then there is the provenance of a workflow, which is workload, sorry, which is tracking the actual
that's
identity of the
not how I
workload, the
see it.
software components involved, and so on.
Not how I see it. In fact, I don't think we should have two provenances. The way I see it is workload definitely has provenance, no question about it. Credential carries workload's provenance.
But it's an object. It's a first-class object in our system. And I would go as far as saying everything has a provenance if it's a tangible artifact somewhere. And in this case, what I'm after is trying to make sure we can audit not only the fact that the workload was X and Y, but the actual fact that the verifier X was applying a certain appraisal criteria Y was involved in issuing the credential. I think it's material to an auditor. So one thing is whatever the thing being appraised, but the other thing is the identity of the auditor or the verifier in our lingo.
You may very well be onto something. I guess where I'm getting stuck is I am yet to see a situation where your workload carries the full, or the credential carries the full provenance. What it carries is a pointer.
Sure.
Right. So because of that, using the same term gets confusing because of Like we call provenance is a linkage, right? Our new definition is a unique linkage between a how do we state it? I have it somewhere. Our new Whimsy architecture, sorry, Whimsy charter. I just updated it this morning. Where is it? But no, that's this. Where is it? There we go.
I think Sal has her hand up. She
Oh,
wants
hi
to say
Sal,
something.
how are you?
Hey, I'm good. Mine is just a quick comment if we want to come back to it later for 236. I think it's an important sentence that we have, and I think we've underscoped it.
Run this by me again.
So in line 236, it's just a little bit out of screen here. But we have two references to trustworthiness. Is it possible for us to change the language around assessing the trustworthiness to verification in that sentence? If we want to keep trustworthiness at the end of it. I just want to be very clear that it's a measurement that we're taking. And I think that it's a pretty important.
The second one I would change. I would say security guarantees, not trustworthiness guarantees.
Okay, yeah.
But
that
the
sounds-
first one I would keep.
Okay,
Yeah, because we do assess the trustworthiness.
yeah, okay.
Yeah,
I'd be
okay.
comfortable with that.
So, sorry, let me go back real quick to this pull request I put on the TWI charter. I'm just gonna move it over to the screen so you get to see it. So in here, just let me show you real quick. So, okay, this is definition. It's a unique linkage between the workload credential and the trusted entities, right? So it's a unique linkage provenance. Now, that's again, there's thing we're running into. There is full provenance and there is a pointer. There is sort of the breadcrumb. And if we, I think we're observing just running into this nomenclature clash.
Well, I don't think actually we do in terms of whether it's a reference, I mean, full inclusion or a pointer. I think that's orthogonal.
Yeah.
But where I think we are clashing a bit is your definition or our definition in the TWI charter seems to be more and more gravitating towards binding. Whereas I think provenance as a concept is really more tied to a life cycle of the entity being measured. I mean, the way hopefully there is some intuition involved there. Reason about this is the provenance really becomes sealed the moment the thing gets instantiated. So the workload, whenever it launches, its provenance is now pretty much sealed for the lifetime of this of the workload itself. But the workload during its lifetime might well acquire multiple credentials. These are multiple probing points over the lifespan of a workload while it's being attested. And I say each attestation itself, given the appraiser, the verifier, maybe applying different criteria, is its own creation of an entity. Ergo, something you can attach lineage towards or provenance towards.
Yes. So we need so this definition then of workload provenance is incorrect. Because provenance is not linkage. Provenance is the property of the workload sealed at its creation.
Yeah, I mean, that resonates with me more than the verbiage.
So, okay. So then we should probably explain that there is this other thing that we can call I don't know, maybe we'll call it the provenance linkage or whatever. Like we need to pick up a term, but that's what's included in the credential. And I think that will be important to get right for the informational draft. So we are not rat holed on that at the IETF where people start asking these questions. Like we need to be very, very crisp on this. So perhaps what you can do is, go check out this pull request in the governance GitHub, and start commenting on this and like propose a better change so we can then incorporate it into both the charter, which we reference, right? So since we reference the charter needs to be crisp by Madrid IETF as well. But since we're copying the definitions into the informational draft, there has to be a one-to-one match, like a unique match between what the draft says and what the charter says. So perhaps like you have your finger on it, and I think you understand this correctly. So perhaps you can propose the wording, and we can do out of band, offline review of this.
Happy to. Yep.
Okay, awesome. So file an issue, and let's now proceed on the assumption that we understand provenance as being the property of the workload, and there is this other thing yet to be defined. That's the pointer that allows you to obtain that provenance from the credential itself. So then this whole section, and again, I bring your attention to, we have workload provenance over here, and then we have credential provenance. So now we understand that credential provenance is that link. Maybe call it provenance identifier for now.
Does it help? I mean, I know two provenances might be one too much in a system, but it's, I guess, where I'm coming from, sorry for repeating over myself, but it's really about, whatever material thing you have in your system has a provenance to it. So if a credential is its own thing, so is the workload, we can say, oh, given it travels in the system, somebody is able to attest it. We get to see the provenance or how it got created.
I see. Okay, I'm starting to see your point. Credential has a provenance in the sense that you find out how the credential came to be. And then when you find out how the credential came to be, from there you can also discover how the workload came to be. And that's workload provenance.
Yep.
Okay, Hank, you have your hand up.
Yeah, so I think what you're discovering is the rat's nest. So every supply chain link can be, as long as it's with software artifacts related, can have a remote attestation procedure to increase its believability with respect to the values conveyed. That is always true. Yeah, so you can nest everything. The issue is fine. Is the CA fine? The CA is a verifier, but can also be a tester. So you can place it basically everywhere. So we have just to carefully understand which is our inner ring of that rat's nest, and which things do we want to support. So which data flow do we want to support with helping remote peer trustworthiness? And it's a select few, I think. Otherwise, you can basically virtually go through the very first artifact and still maybe not be ready. Yeah. So I understand your scoping question, Mark, and I also understand that there might be two specific supply chain provenances here, and they might be both relevant to the problem. One for the credential, one for the workload. And I think they can be two building blocks that we plug together in this document.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we need something. We need it crisp, and it needs to be 100% aligned with the charter. I'm perfectly happy with two provenances for now. Resolving it later, but what we cannot have is confusion. So I think Mateusz, with you, right? You'll own this one, and then we can discuss.
Fair enough. I'm just typing an issue in the governance repo so that we can.
But effectively, this means that you own basically from here, from workload provenance and credential provenance. These sections are yours now.
Okay, fair enough. I will have to reread it at my own pace, but
yeah. That's fine. And again, the exact match to the SIG charter, also yours.
Okay.
And then
Santa's
and then
very
yeah,
yesterday.
well, I mean, this is how important this is. And then so I guess this whole provenance section,
And I
right? So
think we
that's
had, and then we add Matthias as one of the authors as well at the top.
yes, please.
No,
And
I'm gonna
then
be an anonymous owner, so if there is any
and
daggers
then
flying.
and then we'll need to ensure that the usage of the terms is consistent throughout this document as well. After yeah, so all of that. Okay. So now
Sure,
we're moving basically, so that issue is going to cover everything from provenance down, so we don't need to worry about it right now. And we also have 15 minutes left. So workload isolation, confidential integrity of a workload is isolated from the hosting environment and other workloads. Yes, we have that. That's extensions. Is that extension to the Whimsy architecture?
Yes, because they don't have that kind of a thing in their architecture. They just talk about a workload. They don't talk about isolation requirements like isolating from the other workloads or isolation from the host platform. They don't
Right,
talk
but
about
what impact does it have on the architecture? The one part that I absolutely we should be very clear on that the Whimsy assumption that the hosting environment can establish the identity of the workload or can be trusted.
yes.
So let me put like a sentence down so we can review it. The existing, because this is the extension in the Whimsy architecture that the hosting environment can be trusted to
Fully trusted,
establish, can be fully trusted to establish the identity of a hosted workload is incompatible with the assumptions of the confidential computing of, or just not the confidential computing of confidential computing. Or perhaps, can we say workload isolation and attestation? Because we're not really mentioning remote attestation here.
Yeah, at the beginning we somewhere did, but I think, yeah, this is fine.
So we'll say a workload isolation attestation. Confidential workloads perform their own remote attestation. And workload isolation.
But should it be framed as an incompatibility with confidential computing, which some might say like, well, who cares about that? Or instead as, let's say, as a different threat model?
Well,
Because
so
otherwise
look at
this
the section. The
displaces...
section is extensions to the Whimsy architecture. So we're extending it, right? So
Yeah.
I guess what we're saying is, look, for non-confidential workloads, you can do your thing. But for confidential workloads, it's got to be done this way.
Okay, exactly. So do we
So
say
how would you
exactly
reword
that?
this section?
Yeah, exactly. Because what I try to avoid is situations someone say like, well, it's incompatible with many other things as well. Who cares? So that's and maybe that's what you actually said is the right thing to say.
Okay, let's reread it and from that point of view. So under confidential computing, confidential integrity of a workload is isolated from the hosting environment workloads. The existing assumption in the Whimsy architecture that the hosting environment can be fully trusted to establish the identity of a hosted workload is incompatible with the assumptions of confidential computing. Confidential workloads perform their own remote attestation, and workload attestation ensures the hosting environment can interfere in this process.
Yeah,
That's the extension.
adding that in the beginning. Yeah, adding that in the beginning under confidential computing. That's better. That puts it in a certain context. Otherwise, like this incompatibility with assumptions comes a bit out of the blue.
Cool. So those are
Yeah.
the extensions. We're basically saying, there'll be isolation that you now have to assume, the attestation that now has to be done differently, and then there's some stuff in provenance, and then the special section on bad binding. That's another extension. So now we can probably kill, or should we move remote attestation up? Because again, see now this sticks out. Or keep it like this, because that was focused on specifically on isolation and the role of the hosting, or maybe, hold on. This is what I'm thinking. Maybe instead of saying workload isolation and the role of the hosting environment, that's an extension. I think that's better because that leaves remote attestation as a separate discussion. Thoughts?
So can you highlight again, like what?
So okay,
about
so
exactly
we're
that?
in the extension section. We're proposing the following extensions, and now I'm saying, okay, there is workload isolation and the role of the hosting environment. Now we're kind of flipping it on its head. That's got to be made very clear.
Yeah.
Then there is discussion on provenance, and I don't know the order. Maybe remote attestation should be next.
I think, well, the order will need to maybe rearrange it after some careful reading of the
I would
document so that
also
it's
put a
logically.
workload to platform binding under remote attestation.
Well, it's gonna be its own thing to a degree. I mean, yes, of course you can attest to the binding, but when we're discussing the binding with Hank, and Hank tell me if I'm on the right track there, but we are also going into, how stable the binding is. For example, when does the sever or when does the linkage between the workload and the platform sever from the relying party's perspective? Like which workload migration is considered within your credential scope, so to speak, so that you still operate with the same credential, and which
Fair
of the
enough.
moves are without.
Fair enough. But for sake of order, I think remote attestation should go after the role of the hosting environment, because we already mentioned it, and then provenance after, and then where you put workload to platform binding probably last.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I
Okay,
don't
so that's
want to
what we're
nest
gonna
it,
do.
but yeah.
That's what we're gonna do. So before provenance and workload attestation, we'll put remote attestation.
Thank you for the charger.
Okay. Sweet. All right. So now we have alignment or synergy. So that's so before we say we need extensions, we say we need alignment. It's good that we're saying we already have some synergy with it. Concept of cloud identity in line with the concept of identity in a trusted world. Okay. The Whimsy model has a credential issue that's responsible for provisioning identity credentials to the workload. The requirement is roughly similar in terms of issuing credentials. However, we decided we're going to have every sentence on separate line. However, the requirement and policies applied when issuing credentials may vary as described in the divergence. Do we have a divergence section? We don't. Perhaps extensions. Okay, so this is like, okay, you guys are doing a great job. We can use most of what you got. Okay, I do not know this. 2. Why is this 4?
May just be an omission because somebody deleted 3, but yeah.
Okay. And then extensions. Okay. Core requirements. So use cases and core requirements. I kind of had this cross-domain trust enhancement. This is blank. There's like a lot of stuff here in the middle that I don't even know if we need to, like, it seems like it needs a lot of work. So gap analysis, I feel is good. It's the stuff is here that I really have not really had a chance to like see how it integrates, because we don't need cross-domain trust enhancement. I don't feel use cases and core requirements might be highly repetitive with what we already said. But this section is important. So like for me, everything here, so from 173 up through here, that's a kind of suspect, these 40 lines. So let's take a look. Because again, I don't want to say the same thing so many times that people just start getting bored. Or maybe we can move this after the extensions.
Yeah, maybe it's a little bit sparse, and I'm not entirely sure what to unpack from it when I would read it. That's my initial problem. But I don't think that place is very important right now.
The what, sorry?
The location in the document. I mean, it's not super surprising that you're talking about it here.
It should flow well.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of inclined to take this, move this just before
Okay.
security considerations, and then integrate bits and pieces, only in so much as it improves the flow of the overall document.
Okay.
Like, I don't want to destroy this text, but like I'll just copy it down. So here we say gap analysis. Now we say alignment. Now we say extensions, right? So provenance, all of this other stuff. That's actually important for them to read, right? Non-security considerations, that's sort of boilerplate. And here, I'm basically copied it down here to say that, let's take a look if we need to, if this adds any value. Because if it's duplicative, kill it. All right, so we're almost running out of time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to
Create a pull request and see how it comes up, Mark.
yeah.
If you're realigning sections, just don't directly submit it, I would say.
Yeah, no, I'm creating a new branch.
Yeah. Okay. And then we can look at it and see whether the flow which you are suggesting makes a more
Correct. So
logical
I'm gonna,
connect.
I'll just gonna create a pull request, and then we
Yeah.
can edit, comment, whatever.
Yeah.
Because we're almost out of time. All right. Well, for those of you attending the summit, best of luck. I apologize I can't be there. I will see you this time next week. And again, I'm looking forward to a lot of offline conversations over email and GitHub in the following few days.
Yeah.
All right. And happy Juneteenth to those who celebrate, and happy long weekend to those who get a long weekend. All right.
Thank you.
Yeah. See you all later. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.